Hi everybody, Wes Stampley here with JWS Repair Service. Today we're going to be completely disassembling, cleaning, and rebuilding a carburetor for a 2002 Polaris Magnum 325. This will show you what it looks like when one is set up without running. This is especially ethanol fuel, but any gasoline can cause this over time, but ethanol seems to do it a lot quicker. We'll go through the disassembly and show you that. I'm not going to show you actually taking it off the machine or putting it back on, because there's tons of videos on YouTube already that show you that. We're going to focus on repairing and rebuilding this carburetor. So stand by and we'll get started. Okay, we're ready to get started here. So here's the carburetor. Let me see if I can get this moved so I can get it in the shot properly. You see what we're doing here. And you can see it, the outside of it is really dirty. We don't really care about the outside. That's not where all the fun stuff happens. Oh, still got a little bit of fuel in it. You can tell if your carburetor is really gummy and stuff, usually because, well, the smell is the first thing you'll notice, because it's got a real strong varnish or just funky smell to it. It's not pleasant. You wouldn't want to use it as cologne. All right, we're going to start getting a Phillips head. We're going to let that pee the rest of the way out. And we're going to try to get these screws out. I'm using a really long screwdriver to be able to get some more torque on these screws so that we don't damage them. And they are pretty tight, so sometimes we have to use an impact screwdriver, which I probably will on that one because that one is Mongo tight. See if we get lucky. Okay, we got lucky on that one. And it wants to come all the way out with the screwdriver. Alright, let's try this one. Okay, that one came out. And let's give this one a shot again. I'm going to let me hit that with a little bit of penetrating lube. Okay, I shot a little penetrating lube on that screw. Didn't know that that's going to make any difference in this case, but we'll see. But and no, it's not. So time for the impact screwdriver. Be right back. Alright, we're going to try this with an impact screwdriver. Let's make sure it's going the right way. And I'm going to have my lovely assistant come over and hold this so I don't damage anything or have it just fall off the bench. Okay, lovely assistant, thank you. Whoops. Well, I killed the can. Alright, one good smack. And we've got that loose. And then here comes the fun part. Oh, a little green in there, I see. Whoa, the smell is like bad. But you can see if you look in here, sorry, I'm doing this upside down. If you look in here, you'll see that this is your pilot jet that's in here. That is just completely just gummed up and nasty. This is the main jet. It doesn't look much better either. This is your jet that's for your mixture enrichener choke circuit, if you will. And then this is our low speed mixture adjustment. So we'll take all that apart here in a second. Now, Polaris uses a press pin for their float valve, so we're going to need to get an automatic center punch and punch that through. You'll see it's got a bigger head on this end, so don't try to drive it through that way, because you'll break this piece off right here on either side of that's in the body of the carburetor. It's called a float perch, and they're not, while they are strong, they're not strong enough for you to bash on them with something, so you want to be careful of that. But let me grab my center punch and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got the automatic center punch now. This is a snap-on tool. We use these quite often, and most of our tools are snap-on. But what you're going to want to do is line up on the side of the pin. Let's see if I can turn it where you can see it. Yes. And then we're going to want to push down, and it's going to pop, and it's going to start driving that pin out, and bingo, we did it. I want to make sure you're in a clear area. Don't do this out in the yard or something like that, because that's going to fly off and it's not going to want to, you're not going to find it. Okay, right now what we've got is, I should be able to pull this float out, but the float valve itself is completely gummed up and stuck in the seat of the carburetor. So we're going to bend these tabs back over the edge of it. There's a little bit of a gap here. You'll see this gap right here on this float, and we're going to push that. We push the clip back. I'll show you that. This clip right here, pushed it back so I could slide it off of that. Now the kit that we're using is a very complete kit. It's going to come with this float valve, the seat, all of this stuff, so I'm not really worried about pulling that needle out and trying to do anything with it, because at this point when they're stuck like that, they're beyond hope anyway, because it has a rubber tip on it. The rubber tip is that stuck in there. If you try to force that out, it's going to tear that rubber. You may not be able to see it, but it'll have micro tears in it, and I promise you it will leak. So get you a good complete kit. The kit that we use is, the brand is Quad Boss. Quad Boss is a Tucker house brand, and Tucker for the motorsports business is like O'Reilly or AutoZone to cars. They specialize in aftermarket parts, and we get a lot of our parts from them. Now, they don't sell directly to the public. You have to be a dealer, but any Tucker dealer across the nation can get a Quad Boss kit. If you go to our website at www.jwsrepairservices.com, shoot me a message. I can get with the year, make, and model of your machine, and I can send a kit out to you. So just keep that in mind. So we're gonna replace this. So right now I'm just gonna take this out, and it's held in by these two screws, and maybe we'll get lucky and these will actually come out. Oh, well, that one did. As you can hear that pop, you can hear how tight these actually are, and you can bet that yours will be that tight as well. So use a really good screwdriver with a really good tip on it. This is, once again, of course, snap-on, but make sure you're using a number 2 bit and it's in good shape. This one's dirty, but it's still in good shape. Now, if you get one that's kind of rounded, something like that, you're never going to be able to get that out. So it's just going to make you mad, and you're going to end up hucking the carburetor over to the neighbor's house. Okay, now we got that piece out. That's the holder for the float valve. I'm going to grab some needle nose here, and I'm just going to grab the outside of this, give it a twist. It does have an O-ring, and we're going to try to pull this old seat out just like that. And there's the empty hole in there where the fuel comes in. Here's the float valve. There's the O-ring that makes it stick so good right there. And then this is, like I said, this is the stuck float valve. We're not going to be reusing this. Wow, I can't even turn this. So clearly this machine wouldn't run because, oh yes I can, there it is. There's all your nice green stuff all over it. Thank you, ethanol. I hate ethanol and gasoline. I like it when it's in the little colorful bottles at the liquor store. That's the best way to enjoy ethanol. But in your gasoline is not a good idea. Somebody wasn't thinking that day. Anyway, so we got that apart. Now you're going to need a very small flat blade screwdriver. It's a very narrow blade. It's got to fit down in this tube, and we're going to try to get the pilot jet out. Now right now you can't even see in this hole, but there is a slot similar to this in the top of this jet, but it's so gooky down in there you can't see it. But we're going to try to get that out. Now once again, that will come in the Quad Boss kit, so we're going to end up replacing this, but we do have to get the old one out first. So let's see if we get lucky. That was pretty snug too. Okay, that's not going to come all the way out because it's not that long, so we're going to turn it over, and there it is. There's the pilot jet removed. I'm going to go ahead and just throw that in the bowl to go into the vat to clean it. I usually keep those just in case that, you know, if we have something that somebody has drilled out a jet. Some people think that if their bike's not running right, they'll take a small drill bit and drill the jet out. This is the main jet right here. They'll drill that jet out, and all that does is, well, it really makes it run really, really rich, so it doesn't run. So it's nice to have a factory jet somewhere to put back in. This is the main jet. You can see it still has a hole in it. I don't know if you can actually see that on the video or not. I'll try to turn it. Maybe you can see it. There it is. It does have a hole in it still, but the varnish will coat the inside of that hole. So though it has a hole in it, guys will look at it and be like, oh, it's got a hole in it, just put it back in. The problem is with that coating on there, it effectively makes that jet smaller. So it's going to make it run lean at high speed. Now, once again, our kit will come with this. We'll replace it. But if you're not replacing your jets, or if you get a cheap Chinese-made kit, I would not recommend using the jets in those, because a lot of times they're not the size they say they are. Some applications, even we can only get a Chinese build carburetor kit or something, but it's got the important parts that we need in it. But we will not reuse the jets on those because they are not accurately sized. So anyway, but this, we're going to go ahead and clean this too, because like I said, I'm going to throw it in my box, and we'll keep that and need them in case of emergency. Now, while we're here, the only other thing we need to do is pull this mixture screw out, and this is what adjusts your idle mixture. That's all it does. Everything else is fixed, but this will adjust your idle mixture. Once again, we're going to need our small tip screwdriver, flat blade. We're going to line up with the screw, and we're going to take it out. Now this one, sorry about that, that wasn't a crash, that was a steel company next to us apparently dropping something rather heavy. I hope that didn't mic spike anybody. Okay, we'll take this screw out. Now, what we've got in here is the mixture screw, and this should not have been tight anyway because it shouldn't have been bottomed all the way out. You can see we've got a nice dirty spring and a really dirty pilot screw. And then down in here, there is a washer and a little O-ring. That's really important. I'm going to take those out. Okay, I had to find my special tool for this. Now, to get this little O-ring and washer out, I've seen a lot of guys, they'll take it, and they'll bash it on the ground, and it won't come out. They'll try to blow it out with compressed air, and then just end up losing it. What I use is just a simple drywall screw, just a coarse thread. And you're not going to actually screw it in here. You're just wanting to grab that O-ring and washer and pull it out of there, because once again, it's an O-ring, so it gets dry, and it will stick in the body of the carburetor. There's the washer. You can see it's really, really small. And then we still need to get the O-ring out, and it's the same size as the washer. So we'll just give that a turn in here until we can get it to grab. And boy, that one was really tight. Well, it was on its way out, and then it decided it liked it there. So, okay, there it is. And you can see it just catches on the thread, so you're not really damaging it. Now, our kit will come with this, but these are never bad to have around because they get lost, they get old, they get brittle, they fall apart. If that O-ring's not in there, you're going to end up with a vacuum leak around your mixture screw, so you really need that to be in there. Okay, now that we've got the bottom disassembled, we're going to focus on the top. Now, this is our slide cap, and these screws will hopefully cooperate and come out, but that remains to be seen. Okay, that's not wanting to be nice. Wow. Lovely assistant. Did I get your help again, please? I should have done this before I took the bottom off, but if you'll just hold it there, try to make sure we're not going to break anything important down there. I'm not going to hit them too hard. Oops. That one really was happy there. Golly. Man, these mothers are in there. Okay. One more, lovely assistant, and then I'll let you get back to your job. Okay, got it. Alright. Thank you, lovely assistant. Ow! Sorry, I got your finger good there, didn't I? Oh, it knocked a chunk of meat out. Okay. Note for everybody watching this on YouTube, if you have a lovely assistant holding that, be sure where they put their fingers, because I just took a chunk out of his hand there. Ow, sorry about that, lovely assistant. You want to put a Band-Aid or grease or something on that? Electrical tape? Electrical tape works with a shop rag. Okay, now we've gotten the screws out. We're going to tap this cover to get it to release the O-ring in here. It is an O-ring, but it's not an O-ring. It's the slide diaphragm itself. Don't lose your spring. Now we're going to want to work this diaphragm around the edges. We don't want to just try to grab it and yank it out of there. We're going to tear it. This does not come in the kit, so you don't want to ruin that. Just going to follow it around with this punch and let it just get it out of there. It's been in there a while and it's stuck. So here is our slide diaphragm. Now this is the slide for, this opens the main jet and meters of fuel. You'll see that it's a tapered slide. You'll see it's got a little bit of stuff on it, but it's not actually too bad. The main thing we want to check is this diaphragm. We want to look all the way around, make sure that we don't have any holes. You don't need to pull on it real hard because you can actually tear it. It's a fairly delicate item, but they're usually okay. But I see at times people will, this is the air filter side of the carburetor. This is the engine side of it. On this air filter side, sometimes guys will be like, well, it won't start. Let me see if I can shoot something in it. And they'll shoot something like Behrman Chem Tool or something like that in it. Well, Behrman Chem Tool loves rubber. It loves it so much it likes to eat rubber. This large hole right here comes out right here on the inside of this. This is to compensate for atmospheric pressure, because above that diaphragm with that chamber, it's going to want to create a vacuum to raise that slide up and down. To prevent a counter vacuum forming under the slide diaphragm as it moves up and down, this is an atmospheric compensator. Well, it goes straight to the bottom side of this diaphragm. So if you're trying to get this to start and you shoot Behrman Chem Tool in here and it goes in this hole, you got a good chance of when you take that cap off, there's a big hole melted in that diaphragm and it's ruined. So keep that in mind if you're trying to juice one to start it. When we do that, the rare occasions we do that, we do not use a starting fluid. We just use a brake cleaner that is a flammable brake cleaner, which you'll see me spraying some stuff out with later. But right now, that's pretty much our disassembly, except for one important item. This is an emulsion tube, and this is held in by the main jet, but it's pressed into the body of this carburetor, and this is actually a plastic tube that it's sitting in right here, which is part of this plastic piece which holds the slide. It's a slide guide. Isn't that a cool name, slide guide? Anyway, we want to push that out because it's got little holes in it that we're going to want to make sure are clean. Now, I'm not pushing very hard on this, and we don't want to. I'm just going to kind of tap it through and then it falls out. And here are the little bitty holes that are in it. Those holes are very important because unlike automotive carburetors, when cars had carburetors on them, on motorsports carburetors, they pre-mix the fuel with the air. So you have air jets and you have fuel jets, and that's the problem that a lot of people run into, is that they'll pull a float bowl off, they'll clean the fuel jets because they know they're supposed to have holes in them, but not realize that air jets, which are, sometimes they have actual jets in them, sometimes they're like this, where it's just a brass bushing that's pressed into the body of the carburetor with a certain size hole drilled in it. Those don't come out. So I mean, though this one you can see and you could actually run a wire through it if you wanted, that's the reason that we vat these, is because all of those air chambers must be clear. So if you go in and you just clean the fuel jets, that's all fine and dandy. Maybe it'll try to run, but because it's not getting that pre-mixed air, it's not going to atomize as well, and it's going to run really, really rich. Now, while I'm talking to you, I'm trying to get this old bowl gasket to let go here, and you'll see that I'm using my handy-dandy special tool again, which would be the drywall screw to get that. Once again, the kit will come with that, but I want to get it out of there because the carb vat dip that we use is not consumer available. It's industrial chemical. It can be pretty dangerous, and it has an affinity to eat rubber too. So we just try to get all the rubber out so we're not gunking up our dip, because it's really kind of expensive to replace. Okay, we're going to put our other items in there. We've got a pilot jet, the main jet washer, the main jet emulsion tube. This is the little bracket that holds the float valve in, the float valve assembly. We're going to need that cleaned because the kit does not come with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw the mixture screw in there because it's so dirty, but the kit should come with that anyway. But we're going to clean it up. Once again, it's a good thing to have around just in case you get one that's got a broken tip on it or something like that. And for giggles, I'm going to go ahead and throw the float pin in because it was really stuck. We're going to clean that up, make sure it looks good. The float itself is a solid piece. You can vat these too. Now our dip does not affect these because this isn't rubber. But there's really no reason to do anything with this one, so I'm not going to put it in there. But in order to, you're like, well, how would you clean a float? Well, actually I do want to put that in there because that's, well, I'll show you how to clean a float because it always wants to float, right? Well, just put your pin back in, your float pin back in, and if you're using like the Berryman B12 little can with a basket that carb dip that's available pretty much anywhere, automotive, Walmart, you name it, you're going to want it. If you want to clean that, it's going to float in it because the carburetor is going to sink to the bottom. So this is the way that you can clean the float and the pin. You just put it back in part way. And there you go. You can soak it just like that. Alright, I'm going to go put this in the vat, give it some time to clean, and then we'll be back and we'll install the kit. Okay, we're back, and now the carburetor has been through the vat and it's been cleaned. We're not too much worried about the outside of the carburetor because you can get a lot of staining anyway if you've got like red sand. Different environments you'll get, if you're around salt water, things like that, you'll get corrosion and pitting. It looks bad, but as long as it hasn't actually made a hole in anything, it's okay. But so I'm not really too much worried about what the outside of this looks like. I mean, I got off what I could, but there's really no reason to be that thorough with cleaning the outside. What you want to be thorough with is cleaning the inside because that's what makes the engine run. So I've already taken this out of the dip, washed it in our parts washer just to get the dip off of it. Because like I said, what we use is a commercial product that's very caustic. You have to remove it all the way or it'll just keep eating stuff. So it's been washed off, and then I already blew it off with compressed air. I didn't do that on camera because, well, frankly, I didn't think y'all would want your ears blown out from just hearing that. Don't really need to demonstrate that, how to use a blowgun. That's pretty common, but You just want to make sure you blow in all of the ports and passages. And we've got our carburetor kit now. This is our Quad Boss carburetor kit. And like I said, I'll show you how comprehensive that kit is. But there are a couple of things that you'll need to check manually that are not going to come in the kit or just cannot be replaced. I mean, not replaced easily. So, and now you can actually see this plastic guide that's in here. This is what holds the slide in. And it's also on the other end of it, it's where your emulsion tube goes in. That's one piece that goes all the way through the carburetor, and it's pressed in. Yes, it is just screws. They are tamper-resistant Torx, but I would highly recommend never trying to take those out because they use a lot of red Loctite when they install those, and they put them in really, really, really tight. Your chances of getting that out, there's really no reason to remove this unless it's broken, which in most cases would require that you would need another carb body anyway. They do sometimes sell these by themselves, but they're very model specific, so they're really kind of hard to get a hold of. But I don't ever try to take these screws out because you're going to break them. Just trust me on that one. Alright, so we're going to flip it over. We're going to take our now clean float pin out, and now it fits in and out of the float pin nice and smoothly, and it doesn't drag. That's why we went ahead and cleaned them both. Now, the one thing I forgot to show on the disassembly video was taking this main needle out. You don't put this in dip. This, like I said, this rubber diaphragm is not going to like that. It's not going to like B12 Chem Tool. I did point out that we've had a lot of times where people have sprayed that in the throat of the carburetor trying to start one that had a stopped up carburetor, and it'll melt this diaphragm. So this you're going to have to clean manually. What I'm going to do is just use this Maxima contact cleaner. This is what we use around here almost exclusively. Once again, this is available through Tucker, or you can get it through us. You can also probably find it on Amazon or eBay or something like that. Made by Maxima. It's a great product. Not hard to get a hold of, but it works really, really good. It doesn't leave a residue, and it also burns. So this is what we shoot in them when we're trying to start one to diagnose if we have a bad carburetor, bad fuel pump, if it's fuel injected, things like that. It does burn aggressively, but it's not anything near as dangerous as ether, which I never recommend to put in anything. So we want to clean this slide off. So what I'm going to do is just spray some of this carburetor cleaner on my rag. And it's going to start evaporating real quick, and then we're just going to clean this slide off. Now, some of these marks are wear marks. They're not going to come off, but we just want to get the gummy stuff that could cause this slide to stick in the carburetor, which would not make the engine run away, surprisingly, and I'll show you why that is, but it will make it run really, really bad. So we're going to clean that off like so, and we're good to go. The reason that the engine wouldn't run away even if this was stuck wide open in the carburetor is because this carburetor also has a mechanical butterfly in it. And you'll see that if I grab it in the right spot, you'll see that move. I can't get a hold of it because there's no cable on it. There it is. But you'll see that butterfly moves in there. So that closes, so even if that slide was stuck wide open, it wouldn't make the thing run away, but it would make it run really, really lean because it's giving it way too much air when it doesn't. The main jet is not open because the main jet needle is on the bottom of this. So I'll show you how to put that back together. Now, a couple of things that we need to look at that you can't. This jet, this air jet that's here, that actually does come in the kit, but I'm not going to replace it. And why might I not do that, you might ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. Because this is the atmospheric chamber. Remember I told you about this port right here? This is being an atmospheric chamber means that it's open to the outside air. So you can get corrosion, things like that, that will lock this jet in there. It's just a brass material. And when you try to put a slotted screwdriver in there, a lot of times it'll just twist and break off, which can actually restrict the jet. It's a pretty big hole. All the air jets they're always bigger than your fuel jet, so you can just spray through it and you'll see that it comes through right there and where that hole is open, so there's no need to remove that one. Now this one, on the other hand, this one here doesn't come out at all. It's made in there, so we're going to spray through that just as an indicator, and we're getting, if I can get it in there, well, you really can't quite see it. This is for the main jet, so it's a big hole. There, you can just see that coming out of the emulsion tube here. So that's for the main jet, so want to make sure that's clean. Even for the main jet, that's still a pretty good size hole. You can see if it's open. Now the other thing that we need to manually check is the little bitty hole that's in here. And while this is a separate piece, it's brazed into, or soldered, or pressed, or however they put it, it's in there really good. Into the body of the carburetor. What this does is supplies fuel to your enricher circuit, which is right here. That's your choke, if you wanted to call it that, but it's really a mixture enricher. It adds an extra fuel and air when you're cold starting. So that's what happens when you pull the little choke knob. Now that's a fixed jet right here. So what we need to do is I'm going to use this. This is a K&L carb wire cleaning kit. I buy these on Amazon. They're just easier to get a hold of there. And we want to use the smallest wire, which is for a pilot jet, which is normally your low speed jet. It's a little bitty wire, so it's got this extra piece on it because it wouldn't hold up very well. And we're going to take that, and we're just going to make sure that that is open. We're just going to run it through. Yes, that looks like it's open. So we will, I'm actually going to spray this backwards because it's easier to get it here. The fuel to this is supplied through the small hole in the middle of this. So I'm going to take this nozzle, put it down in there the best I can, and we'll see it shoot out right there. So that lets me know that my enricher circuit is open. So that way when you are trying to cold start, you are able to start it. So, okay. Now, here's all of our pieces. Now, we're not good. These two plastic pieces here, I'm going to show you where those go. Those are really important. We need that. Let's open up the kit. And you will see that it comes with a lot of stuff, but there are a few things that it doesn't come with. Let's see, there's that itty bitty O-ring and washer that we fished out of there. It does come with new screws, which is great because these screws were crap, so we're going to replace those. Now it comes with a new slide needle. I'm going to match these up, make sure they're the same. They look good to me. Now make a note of where the clip position is, because if you look closely, this clip is actually in the second groove from the top. So we're going to use some needle nose, pull this clip out, and yes, it is pretty tight, and then we're going to put this clip back in right where it came off of the old one. So we've got that in the same position. For this, on these plastic pieces, this goes under the needle, and this goes above it. We're going to drop this, we're going to leave that side sitting there for a minute, and we're going to drop the needle back in the slide like so. Make sure it goes through all the way. Okay, now we'll complete the reassembly. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our new float valve and seat in there, and that little bitty Ziploc bag is not doing me any favors. You know, this has a screen on it. The other one did not, so it's nice to have a little screen on there just for giggles. Now that will help block some of the particles out. It's not going to keep it from getting clogged up, but it's going to help some. Now what I'm going to do is spray this O-ring with just a little bit of penetrating lube. And this will, once again, this is another Maxima product that we use all the time. So it works really, really good. That will make that O-ring a little bit easier to push in because it is tight. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to reinstall the holder that holds it in, and it's a little bit of a tight fit. We're going to kind of put it up here, kind of wedge that in there. Okay. Now we'll reinstall our screws. These screws they did not give us, but that's okay. These came out alright. So we'll put those back in. Okay, snug. Put that back in and snug it up. Okay. Now we'll take our new pilot jet, and I always like to just check these just to make sure that they didn't have a problem at the factory. There's a little bit of piece of something in it, because this is a really small hole, and your pilot jet is what controls starting, idling, and everything up to about a quarter throttle. From that point on, your main jet takes over. So this is the problem when they're really, really hard to start, and you have to choke them all the time. If you take it off a choke, it won't run. They won't idle. Sluggish response. That's usually your pilot jet, because this is a tiny hole. As a matter of fact, I don't think I could zoom enough for you to be able to see the hole in there. It's about the thickness of a human hair. So I went ahead and ran a wire through it just to confirm it's okay, and it is. So we'll drop that in. We will find our small screwdriver, and we will put that back in there. We want it in there snug, but we don't want to break the top of it. Now, here's our new mixture needle. Here's the old one after it cleaned. It's actually not terrible, and it could be reused, but we've got a new one. You can see they are identical. So we will go ahead and put that in there. Here's a new spring. Spring goes on. Okay, spring goes on. Now, important on this, the order of this. The washer goes next, and then the O-ring. Okay, same thing on this. Just a little bit of an oil in there so that that O-ring will slide in a little bit easier. We're going to place that back into where it goes. Okay. Now we're going to put an initial setting on this. This may have to be adjusted depending on conditions like wear on the engine, engine outside temperature, things like that. But typically your standard setting is 2.5 turns. Now here at JWS we go by half turns, so that would be 5 half turns. So that would be, it's slightly seated. I'm not tightening it up real hard, it's just where it stopped gently. Now we go half, 1 turn, 1.5, 2 turns, 2.5. And then once we get it back on the machine, we'll start it and can adjust it from there. But that's your initial setting for it. Now, I want to make sure that our emulsion tube is nice and clean. This does not come in the kit, so you can't see me because I'm off camera, but I'm looking up through the light and making sure that all of the holes are open, and they are. Now to reinsert this, you'll notice the end of it is kind of wonky shaped. It's got this, looks like a little cutout on it here with a tooth. Okay, that lines up with this corresponding piece in the body of the emulsion tube holder here itself. So we're going to line that up. And this is a little difficult to do. Normally what I do is not just drop it down in there like that. You can grab it very gently. Well, I guess we can go around. I think I can go around. We're going to grab it with the needle nose like this, and we're going to place it in there. I can see where that notch is, so I'm going to turn this around and try to line that up. And then we're going to slide that back into the carburetor. Now it went down in there. and it's not turned the right way, so we're going to see if we can turn that with my finger and get that to line up, and then I'll show you what that looks like. And of course it won't turn at all. Well, it's going the wrong way. Come on now, work with me here. Hang on just a second. Okay, we're back. Alright, what I did was I went and got my little curved pliers, and then I turned that emulsion tube from inside here until I could get it to where it lined up with the notch. You'll see it's lined up there now. Okay. Now what we want to do is take the washer. Now this we had to save from the old carburetor. It doesn't come with that. And then we're going to get our new main jet. We're just going to compare the sizes on them, make sure that they're the same. The one in the kit is a 145, and the one that came out of it is too dirty to read. Brush that off, see if I can see that. I can't really read that. I wonder, can y'all read it? Post in the comments and tell me if you can read that or not, because I couldn't read that. Judging by the looks of it, they are not the same size. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to run a wire through this one, because that did not look like the same. It looked like that new jet was much larger than this one. So what we're going to do, these wires have a little bit of a knurl on them. It doesn't really, it's not like I'm making the jet bigger. It just helps get anything cleaned off the side. So we're just going to run this through, and I'm going to keep going up progressive sizes. If I get too large, it won't go through there, and we're not going to force it. So we don't want to actually make the jet any larger than it is. And it's going to take the largest size and still not be stuck. We're just going to kind of run that through there and see what we got. Now comparing the two. Yeah. Now I'm still comparing the two, and it still looks like the one that came in the Quad Boss kit is a little bit too large for this, and that does happen from time to time. Fairly rare for a Quad Boss kit, but for some of the off-brand kits it is, but they'll make these where they fit multiple applications. Now I did check the number on the Pilot Jet, and it was the same. So this one I couldn't read, but I don't know what it said it was, but it wasn't 145, I know that. Alright, we're going to put that back in. We're going to get that snug, and that's going to hold with the washer the emulsion tube back down there in the middle. It's going to hold that back in there. So excuse me. Now we're good with that. Now this is the air jet that was in the body of the carburetor right here. Like I said, I don't normally replace that because it has a tendency to twist off of there, and we don't really want to do that. Now, we're going to take our new float valve. Here it is. We're going to take the tab, we're going to slide it over, or take the clip, should I say, and slide it over the tab on the float. Now, I'm going to take that, I'm holding my finger on this, to keep it from moving. And we're going to set that down in there, like so. I'm going to take our pin and place our pin back in. We're going to get that all the way through there. And then take our automatic center punch, and we're going to press that back in. That safely drives the pin back into the perch without breaking it off, because that's a bad day. Now we'll check our float level, and the way you want to check a float level is you want the float to be level with the body of the carburetor right when it shuts, not when it's pressed down, because these floats do have pins on the top that, so if it bounces it doesn't cause it to flood. But we want to just make sure that this float is level with this part of the carburetor just as the float valve itself closes. So I'm going to hold this up so I can see it, because typically you want to do it upside down like this, and you want to push it up just till you see that float valve close. Like so, if I can get a good angle on it where you can see it. Now I'm going to hold it up so I can see it. Yes, that looks good. That looks just like where it's supposed to be. Alright, here's our float bowl, our new gasket. We'll put that in there. Perfect fit. We'll put the float bowl back onto the carburetor, and we'll secure it with our new screws. And just for FYI, the long screws always go in the bowl and the short screws always go in the slide cover top. So we'll just tighten these up. I'm going to snug them all first, and then I'll go back and get them fully tightened. Okay, go ahead and give them a good snugging. Okay. Now we'll put our slide back in. Now, one thing to note on the slide, you'll see on this diaphragm there's a little bump right here. It's a little bit out of round. It's a little bit bigger there than the rest of it. That's to place this correctly into the carburetor. Oh, and by the way, these marks here are just incidental. That looks like a ton of wear. It's really not. It's not going to hurt anything. I've seen a lot worse and they ran okay. If it gets to where it's walking in there and it's hanging, then you might have to replace this at some point, but this is what I would consider to be normal wear and not out of spec. So alright, you look at the body of the carburetor, you'll see that there is an extra wide spot right there. That's going to correspond with this piece. So that means the float or the slide must go in this way. Make sure that our needle went all the way down, and you'll see that the diaphragm will now fit all the way around in there. There's nothing sticking out, anything like that. You want to make sure that it's seated. If you put this in there right, it's going to sit right back down in there like it came out. Now we take our spring, slide it back in, and then we take our cover. There's a little pin in the top of this cover right here. You put your spring through that pin. See how the spring fits over it? Okay, and then set your cover down. The cover doesn't really matter which way it goes. You'll notice it has tabs on it to cover that one little extra part on every corner. So you really can't put this on wrong, because like I said, they made this idiot proof. They just put a wider tab to cover that location spot on every side, so you can't really put it on wrong, so don't worry about that. Now we'll take our new screws for our cover. We'll install those. We'll go ahead and just pull those down, because I'm holding that cap down with my thumb against that spring. The spring's not very strong, but I also don't want it to pop out and get out of place. So go ahead and snug those down a little bit. Now we'll go ahead and put our other screws in. Like so. Now we can go ahead and tighten them a little bit more. And try not to drop it on the floor. And there you have it. All completely cleaned, rebuilt, ready to go back on the machine and run like she was supposed to again. We'll be back with the after installation video, or not a video. I'm going to leave it on this video, but it'll coming up. We'll show you with it running. All right, be right back. Okay, we're back, And we've got the carburetor reinstalled on the unit. This being a constant velocity carburetor or a CV carburetor, that's any of those that have that vacuum slide diaphragm, it's really a good idea to have all your air box and everything back on before you try to start it, because they don't react well to that. Sometimes you can start and idle them, but they won't take throttle. But here's what we've got now. And she runs just like she's supposed to. A little cold nature, but once she warms up, she'll run just fine. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to click that like button. You can also subscribe to us on our channel. You can catch us on the web at www.jwsrepairservices.com. And let me get in the right spot here. At jwsrepairservices.com. You can even catch us on Facebook at JWS Repair Service. Just search for us on Facebook. You can message us there if you've got any questions about any of the products or anything we've done today. And always remember to use safety. You are working with gasoline here. Be sure you're in a ventilated area. Try not to spill any more than you have to, and don't be around any open flames that may ignite the vapors. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks. Have a good day.